Let's step into a room where history holds its breath. The year is 91 CE, in the heart of Rome. The public cheers have faded, the wedding garlands are wilting. Now a young woman stands in a silent chamber, surrounded not by loved ones, but by witnesses. What is about to happen to her is a sacred ritual, a legal requirement, and a secret so potent that the empire itself would later burn every record of its existence. This isn't a story of love or celebration. This is the story of the Roman wedding night, a meticulously planned procedure designed not for the bride, but for the state. This is Historia. We journey into the forgotten corners of history. Today, we cross that final forbidden threshold to uncover the truth Rome tried to erase. To understand the shock of that private chamber, we must first deconstruct the beautiful public lie. Imagine the scene earlier that day. Julia Antonia, perhaps 14 or 15, is the picture of traditional devotion. Her hair has been parted with a ceremonial iron spearhead, a relic from Rome's mythical past, symbolizing the bride's capture in times of war. It's a haunting metaphor she likely doesn't yet grasp. Her tresses are woven into 6 tight braids bound with white wool, a style so complex it requires hours and signifies her new status. She dons the flammeum, the flame-coloured veil that obscures her face. This isn't for modesty, but to conceal the fear in her eyes from the evil spirits Romans believed coveted happy moments. The procession to her new husband's home is a carnival of controlled chaos. Crowds line the streets, singing Festive verses, crude sexually explicit songs meant to bless the union with fertility through vulgarity. Nuts are thrown at her feet, symbols of fertility that feel like pelting stones. She is lifted over the threshold, not for romance, but because ancient superstition held that stumbling would doom the marriage. It also echoes a darker time when a bride was carried in, consent optional. All of this pageantry has a purpose: to announce a legal transition to the community. The central act was the signing of the tabulae nuptiales, the marriage contracts. These were not love letters. They were dry, business-like documents detailing the dose, the dowry, property, money, slaves that Julia's father was transferring to her husband Marcus. Her body and its reproductive capacity were the implicit, most valuable clause in this contract. This is the crucial, chilling frame. In the eyes of Roman law, for most of its history, a woman was alieni juris, under another's law. She passed from the manus, the legal hand, of her father to the manus of her husband. The very term for marriage, conventio in manum, means coming into the hand. She was legally a transferred asset, her primary function in this transaction, to produce legitimate male heirs in a society obsessed with lineage, property, and the purity of the family line. Paternity was everything. Uncertainty was a threat to the entire social and economic order. So Rome, being a society of engineers, lawyers, and bureaucrats, devised a system to eliminate that uncertainty. They applied the principles of commerce to marriage: inspection, witnessing, and notarization. Think of it as the most important audit of a Roman man's life. You wouldn't buy a prize stallion without a vet checking its teeth and confirming its pedigree. You wouldn't purchase an estate without surveyors walking its boundaries and scribes recording every detail before witnesses. The bride was the asset. Her virginity was the warranty of legitimate paternity. The wedding night was the quality assurance inspection. And the prober, the physician, and the other observers were the official auditors. Their testimony would be ironclad in any future court dispute over inheritance. With this bleak legal logic in mind, the door to the house closes, muffling the obscene songs. Julia is now inside the atrium. The air is heavy with incense and expectation. The party is over. The procedure is about to begin. The atrium is not empty. A small group awaits. There is an older man with a leather bag, a physician. There are female slaves holding basins and cloths. And there is the pronuba, a married woman who will oversee the rites. Her role is not supportive, it is judicial. She is the foreman of this ritual assembly line. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to share your thoughts in the comments, like and share it, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so we can bring more such insightful and informative videos to you. Remember, the joy of spreading knowledge is best when we're all together. Then Julia's eyes are drawn to the corner. An object nearly 4 feet tall stands draped in dark fabric. It is ominously still. The pronuba's grip on Julia's arm is firm, unyielding. To miss greet mutunus tutunus. You must seek his blessing for the fertility of your union. The cloth is pulled away. What stands revealed is a wooden effigy carved with stark anatomical precision. This is mutunus tutunus, a deity of fertility, thresholds, and marital penetration. This is not a small amulet or a garden statue. It is life-sized, deliberately crafted for a specific, terrifying purpose. Here, many modern historians have softened the edges of history. They suggest a symbolic gesture, perhaps. The bride sat on the statue's lap. But the primary sources that dare mention it are unequivocal and horrified. A century after this practice faded, the Christian theologian St. Augustine, in his work The City of God, wrote with dripping contempt, "Such were the Roman customs that the bride was made to sit upon the member of mutunus." The Latin verb he uses, inceder, means to sit upon, to mount, to occupy. It is not a gentle word. Another early Christian writer, Arnobius, is even more graphic, calling it a disgraceful ceremony, where the bride was positioned upon the god's unseemly form. Why would these Christian polemicists invent such a bizarre, specific accusation? They wouldn't. They were weaponizing a truth that was still a living, shameful memory for many Roman converts. The ritual was real, and its physical nature was understood. So what was its purpose? On a religious level, it was to invoke the god's blessing for fertility and to magically prepare the bride. But within our legal framework, its function was brutally practical, psychological conditioning, and demonstrated submission. For a sheltered young virgin, the expectation of the wedding night was a source of immense fear and potential resistance. Resistance was a legal problem. A bride who fought or froze could prevent the consummation, invalidating the entire contract. The ritual with mutunus tutunus was a controlled, pre-scripted rehearsal. It served to shatter psychological barriers, to demonstrate in the most unambiguous way that her body was now subject to external authority and ritual command. It was a desensitization protocol performed before witnesses to prove her compliance. The pressure was absolute. To refuse was to nullify the contracts, disgrace her family, and become socially ruined. The weight of pietas, duty to family and tradition, crushed individual will. Under the pronuba's instruction, Julia would have complied. This moment separates our world from theirs completely. We see a profound violation. They saw a sacred and legal process. The gap between those perspectives is the chasm we are trying to bridge. The ritual with the god was only the first checkpoint. The process that follows reveals the true systematic nature of the night. Afterward, Julia is washed by the slaves. The scented water is for ritual purification, yes, but also hygiene. This is preparation for the next official examiner. The physician steps forward. His presence is critical. Prior to the wedding, a midwife, often the proba herself, would have examined Julia and formally attested to her virginity. This created the baseline document, the before snapshot. Now the physician performs a post-ritual examination. Think of him as a quality control inspector on a factory line. Has the first stage of the process been completed correctly? Is the asset in the expected condition for the next stage? His findings are mental notes for the final report. There is no concern for Julia's emotional state. He is assessing conformity to a legal and physical standard. Now comes the central act of verification. Julia is led to the cubiculum, the bedchamber, but this is no private haven. The door is deliberately left open. Oil lamps are lit to ensure clear visibility from the hallway, where the proba takes her formal position as witness. Slaves linger in the corridor, ready with water and cloths. Her husband Marcus enters. He may be nervous too. He is not just a participant, he is an actor in a legal drama, performing a duty to secure his lineage and validate the contract. The pronoba's voice, formal and detached, echoes from the doorway. The bride is prepared. Let the marriage be sealed according to the law of Rome and the custom of our ancestors. Let the witnesses observe. What follows is the consummation, not as intimacy, but as a publicly witnessed legal procedure. The pronuba observes. Her role is to be able to testify under oath in a court of law that the marriage was physically completed. Her testimony could determine the fate of vast estates. Was this humiliating? Undoubtedly, but in the Roman mind it was a necessary safeguard. Sentiment could not be allowed to cloud the transfer of property and bloodline. Let's sit with that silence for a moment. The profound lack of privacy. The awareness of being watched, assessed and documented during the most vulnerable moment of one's life. The complete inversion of everything we associate with human dignity and connection. At dawn, the chain of verification reaches its final link. Thank you for watching.